Hi guys, so this right here is the Akitsu mouse made in collaboration with Vancer, Arbiter Studios and Finemax. It is made from carbon composite, it weighs under 40 grams and it is built incredibly well, especially for an ultra low weight gaming mouse. I've been using it non-stop for 2 weeks now and it still feels incredibly rigid. There is like pretty much no creaking on the sides here. And the only flexing I can get is from the back if I press inside in a certain spot. And there seems to be like a teeny tiny gap that really doesn't hinder its usage in any way. And yeah, it's pretty much built like a tank. The main buttons also feel pretty solid as well. There is some side play on them that was there on day one as well, but it hasn't gotten worse at all. Top shell is beautifully done, and compared to Final Mouse it is constructed from one solid piece, which makes it have no moving parts or extra hinges that can shift around, creating those nasty issues. The bottom is also really beautiful and it has these carbon fiber patterns on here, and also this beautiful dragonfly. That is their way of flexing their capabilities of crafting cool stuff from this exotic, very durable material. With the center of the dragonfly that acts as the sensor ring, there is however this small issue that happens with skates that are under 0.7 millimeters thick, which the stock dots for example were. The issue is that the ring can scratch on your cloth mousepad quite noticeably, but using some thicker skates fixed that issue completely. I want to point out that the stock skates were actually really good on glass pads, and on those the issue is of course non-existent. But I fear that when the skates wear out a little, the bottom will start scratching on glass pads as well. Using something thicker like the Obsidian Airs or the Pro Airs is a good choice on the Akitsu. Continuing on the bottom, there are then these two stickers that prevent dust creeping up to the battery adhesive, which is visible if you take these off. With these two buttons here, you can then change the DPI and the polling rate of the mouse, and the latter function is actually so good if you want to save some battery while on normal desktop use. The holes on the mouse are pretty much non-intrusive and I have no real comfort issues with them, but I had to put these side grips on to improve the grip on the mouse a bit, since the mouse doesn't really have a grippy coating, at least for me. These included grips are honestly the easiest grips to install correctly due to their thickness, and looks wise they are honestly crafted so beautifully like the rest of the mouse. Underneath these grips there are of course some holes, which I'm just gonna show you a picture of, since I don't want to risk ruining the adhesive on these beautiful grips. With these side grips installed, the mouse weighs 41 grams it seems like. Yeah, it really makes this a extremely low weight offering. Of course, without the grips it will weight under the 40 grams. The main buttons are using a completely new switch made by Huano, the Huano Dragon Claw, which honestly feels a lot like the transparent blue shell pink dots, but they feel real nice. The implementation is nice and snappy on the spot where I click my buttons, so right next to the scroll wheel, but when clicked on the front part here, there seems to be a generous amount of post travel. Maybe they will fix this in future patches, who knows, but for me this is not an issue at all. The side buttons feel nice and snappy too, and I really like their slightly sharp shape on here. It makes these easy to actuate and distinguish from one another, which is not always the case for a smaller mice like this. The scroll wheel was a bit tight at first, and so was the scroll wheel button, but after 1 week the scrolling function loosened up nicely, and now it actually feels like a pretty good scrolling experience. The scroll wheel button is still quite tight, but it also has loosened up to a more reasonable level. This is supposed to be fixed in the future batches, however. So yeah, shape-wise this is a small mouse. It is basically a tiny bit longer, slightly taller and flatter on the sides version of the Final Mouse small shape. I quite like this version of the Final Mouse shape mainly due to the flatter sides and the ever so slightly taller hump. I don't have the ULX small with me anymore, so I can't sadly show you a shape comparison with it, but here it is compared to the Starlight 12 medium size, and yeah, it's a tad bit shorter, tad bit more narrow than it, and yeah, less flaring on the front. more flatter sides altogether. Performance-wise, the mouse is also top tier. Rumor has it that the firmware is tweaked by the same guys that did the newer versions of WL mouse's firmware, but I can't be 100% sure about that. However, the mouse tester graphs reveal it to have a really stable polling at 4K and 8K polling rates, and the motion delay seems to be up there with the best. The method of testing motion delay is not the most accurate one and has a lot of room for human error, but these results are average from 10 samples and rounded up. So at 8K polling without motion sync, I could get minus 0.9 milliseconds of motion latency compared to my wired control unit, and with 4K polling the result was around minus 0.7 milliseconds. The click latency metrics are also super impressive. Measured with my XLAT, I could get results lower than 0.4 milliseconds with every polling rate I tested it from 1K to 8K polling. And yeah, these results are virtually the same. They have some variance, but this is how measuring something really is. So yeah, it is a really nice stuff all around from Vancer, Arbiter and FineMax and those mysterious guys tweaking the firmware. Then I want to talk about this beautiful dongle right here. This right here, it is so good. Literally the best dongle there is currently. It is compact but shows every relevant information regarding your mouse, like DPI, polling rate, motion sync status and the battery level. So no guessing about what polling rate you are currently, just check the screen. And if you are on the wrong one, boom, instant. This is the kind of innovation I love to see from these companies, like really thought out functional stuff. Then of course you have the option to change this stuff also on their web-based driver, which has all the relevant stuff and works really nicely. So yeah, for $140, this mouse really is something special, and especially for those who have smaller hands or fingertips their mice, this is an insanely good offering. I really hope they will make a larger version with the same insane build quality and top tier performance, and I just know it would sell like crazy. You can get this mouse at least from FineMax, Arbiter Studios and Maxgaming, and Lethal Gaming Gear should get stock at some point. If you are in the EU, I can vouch for ordering from FineMax, also since the price includes the VAT, so you probably won't have to pay any extra to import the mouse. You can also plug in the code jerrorr at FineMax or at Lethal Gaming Gear to save you a bit, and it helps this channel too, so it really is a win-win situation. But I think that is all for this video. Like always, thanks for watching and see you on the next one. Goodbye.